Hi, this is Paul St. Peter on behalf of Brian Awesome. There's a reason we call him Brian Awesome. It's because he's awesome, Brian. I, as Zenless, am truly awed by Brian. And sometimes I'm so smart, I scare myself.
When Batman animated series was never a big hit, that's taken out of the equation to where either more reruns of Beetlejuice or something has to take up that spot for the time being, and that will also mean that X-Men would be the main heavy hitter. But then what if the rest of history, or what if the rest of the proverbial river still flows in the same path, even though some of the water is taken out in a figurative sense? So what if X-Men still had the mistakes of Magneto's uniform isn't coded in correctly in the intro, and Gambit's extra dialogue, and Rogue, or excuse me, Storm, I believe it's called Youth Rogue. And what if that whole debacle behind Night and the Sentinel still happens for X-Men animated series? What if that still happens? Then they will have to postpone the whole series, even though they had like the third, fourth, and fifth episodes already made. For some reason, they couldn't have just gone the regular path, and then by the time they get to reruns of Night and the Sentinels, they will already have the corrected version. But they wouldn't fall behind just so they could waste time in first focusing mainly on correcting Night and the Sentinels. But nonetheless, that whole debacle that we ultimately did have with Night and the Sentinels still happened. So that's postponed. So because X-Men animated series didn't officially debut again until 1993. So between the messed up airings of Night and the Sentinels, and that's if they still show the incorrect episodes 500 times before they show the correct version, and then the Magneto episodes and so on. What's shown in between that time other than that? Like, what, Tiny Toons? It would have to be Tiny Toons reruns, and then maybe show the vacation movies and Merry Melodies in Bobby's World. That would have to fill in the void. So I guess the whole us accepting action cartoons maybe starts a little later, or at least have a less of an impact, because there's no Batman, and we will later see the repercussions of not having I'm not saying the Batman character never existed, period. That would absolutely suck. But just Batman animated series and Bruce Timm is never a thing, or never a hit. And that's actually being nice if it's never a hit, because that would mean that at least a couple of episodes at least would have already been made. But nonetheless, X-Men is still the main Kobe Bryant of the team of Fox Kids, even though the Shaquille O'Neal of Batman animated series was never a thing. So the Kobe Bryant, or the X-Men animated series, carries Fox Kids on his back, as other players in the form of Bobby's World or Bugs Bunny or whatever kind of carries the block, or helps carry the block. So we're now in 93, and we have the corrected versions of Night of the Sentinels and other episodes of X-Men, and we still have the early years of Fox Kids. And I'm trying to like have some type of visual presentation. And Power Rangers still becomes a thing. So Power Rangers and X-Men becomes the big two, and coincidentally both of those are Saban produced shows, so maybe that could play a factor. So we're in 93, 94. So Saban maybe becomes more of a focus. Because eventually, like I mentioned earlier, and what did happen and what would happen in this reality that I'm referring to, Beetlejuice would eventually go to Nickelodeon, Tiny Toons would eventually go to Cartoon Network, and later Kids WB by 97. Yeah, 97. And then by 99 it would be part of the big cartoony show, if it goes that far for WB. So stuff would move away from Fox Kids. So uh, X-Men and Power Rangers would carry the bulk of the load of Fox Kids on his back. So without a Batman animated series, the rest of Fox Kids kind of goes the same, because in our reality, once Batman left, there was no more DC properties at all on Fox. So the rest of Fox Kids kind of goes the same. Yeah. Except Gargoyles would be different. If there is still a Gargoyles, whether it's on Disney or on Fox, it might be for the most part the same if this is the version of this what if where Batman did happen but it wasn't a success, but it was still enough of a success for Greg Wiseman to grasp enough of its concepts to be influenced by to create the visuals of Gargoyles. Because a lot of these shows aren't just influenced by previous shows, but it's also a lot of stuff is influenced by comics. So a lot of this dark concepts or dark visuals was already present in the Dark Knight comics and Spawn comics and whatnot. So Fox Kids is relatively unchanged because there was still enough action shows and action focus to be carried onto Power Rangers and X-Men. And maybe without Batman being there, Saban becomes more of a focus to where maybe VR Troopers and Beetleborgs and Masked Rider last longer. Either that or they had more crossover episodes before ultimately still being canceled. But they would last a little while. And then maybe Power Rangers becomes more of a success because they have more attention on them. Because maybe in this reality, if this didn't already happen, maybe X-Men didn't come back to Fox Kids after the whole Night in the Sentinels debacle. Maybe they didn't come back to Fox Kids until after Mighty Morphin Power Rangers had already premiered. You know, Day of the Dumpster, Zack's birthday party, and all that. So maybe this would influence some more cool stuff to happen centering around something like Power Rangers or at least Saban, because they have more momentum in that regard. So maybe, I'm not sure if I should include this in this what if universe. Maybe I'll save it for spoilers. What if Marvel and Batman bombed on Fox Kids in a bad way? To where in that scenario, Power Rangers would be the sole action type of show that would carry the load to the point where you would have to have something else, especially by the time other properties that you originally had would move to other blocks or networks. I almost want to go to that what if right now. But we're gonna stick with just what if Batman wasn't a thing. So we're in Batman's not a thing, and Marvel and Saban Entertainment has more of a focus. And we still had the early years, and then we still had the Generation Fox era. And Fox lasted until they had the anime invasion. So let's venture to Kids WB. Kids WB still debuts in 1995, centering around That's Warner Brothers, the Bugs Bunny shorts, and Animaniacs, and Steven Spielberg stuff, and Pinky and the Brain venturing into his own show. That still happens. But since Batman the Animated Series wasn't a thing, or wasn't successful on Fox Kids, there is no Superman the Animated Series. There is no Tim Daly as Superman. There is no there is no Lobo Metallo Livewire. No sexy Lori Petty voice as Livewire, which is the same point. I just wanted to mention her sexy voice, but none of that's a thing. No Batman Superman adventures either. No Static Shock. At least not from a Bruce Timm DCAU perspective. So none of that. So going back to the chronological events, when Kids WB debuts, in our reality, Superman kind of gave us a preview of what the heavy duty doubles would be. Superman debuted in 96 and stayed around to 2000, but by 97 Batman had moved to Kids WB in 97, and bam, we had the Batman Superman adventures, and that provided a further catalyst to have other superhero shows in that universe. Static Shock, Batman Beyond, Justice League, whether on WB or Toonami. But like I said, no Batman on Fox means no Superman or Batman or Bruce Timm DCAU, period, either on WB or Toonami or anywhere else, period. So Bruce Timm and Andre Romano and anybody else would stick with working on Animaniacs or whatever, or other stuff. So 95 to early 96 goes by normal for Kids WB. The rest of 96 to 97, yeah, it's the same as the earlier seasons, Freakazoid and wherever else. They maybe still bring in Captain Planet. But then this isn't like this isn't like the what ifs of like, what if Power Rangers, Marvel, and Batman wasn't a thing that would usher in action animation. But with Batman not being a thing, we still had, like I mentioned earlier, Marvel and Power Rangers, so that was still enough to bring in the action boom for Fox later, Generation Fox for Fox. So with that still happening for them, the heavy duty doubles would still happen for Kids WB. So that would still mean the Jeff Klein universe would still happen. Men in Black, specifically Men in Black, the animated series for WB. So the heavy duty doubles, shit, I forgot. In our reality, the heavy duty doubles greatly, especially before Pokemon came, greatly consisted of the Bruce Timm DCAU. But since the DCAU isn't a thing as a whole, due to Batman not being a thing, the heavy duty doubles would have to consist, or first it would have to still have Men in Black the animated series. But since there's no DCAU, what would be other action shows that would be up there, especially before Pokemon came in 1999 on KWB? What were other Jeff Klein shows that already existed? The Extreme / The Real Ghostbusters universe was part of that. And Men in Black the animated series. And Jumanji as well, because UPN Kids debuted in 1995 and Jumanji was a part of that, at least animation style. So maybe that would move the Kids WB, and the heavy duty doubles would be basically a Jeff Klein Power Hour. Men in Black the animated series, the original Ghostbusters, the Extreme Ghostbusters, and Jumanji. And I think with those successful shows, they probably wouldn't be, at least in this reality that I'm describing, they probably wouldn't be an Invasion America and Brats of the Lost Nebula and all that other stuff that was part of the original heavy duty doubles. And then by the time Godzilla comes about, it wouldn't be on Fox Kids, it would be on KWB, since the other Jeff Klein stuff is on the heavy duty doubles. So that's one less show to kind of give us something to watch other than Marvel and PR on Fox. So now we're in 1998. 1998 would be more or less the same as 97, except with more success of the Jeff Klein stuff for KWB. But we would have to get to a point where anime becomes a factor, because Toonami already still debuted in 1997, so that would mean hold up. Going back to Fox Kids, with more of a focus on the Saban properties, whether Max Rider and all of them become more successful, close to the point of how Power Rangers and X-Men were successful, would that be the case, or would those still kind of bomb to where to where they would need to pick up, like Fox would need to pick up DBZ and Sailor Moon? I think that at the very least, if there aren't that many more new episodes of the other Saban stuff, I think that it would still keep those shows on the block in the form of reruns, because if the Jeff Klein universe is becoming more successful in what would become the heavy duty doubles on KWB, Fox Kids will need to have an equivalent of that, especially by 97. So maybe there's a section of the block, whether on weekdays and or Saturdays, to where they will focus on the Saban universe, the Saban Power Hour, the Saban, whether this is a usual thing or whether this is just like an occasional special, like Power Playback or TV Takeover, that they would have something done for Saban. Think about it. Power Rangers, X-Men, and the rest of the Marvel stuff in that universe, to where it would probably be successful, to where there would be no need for Spider-Man Unlimited. But X-Men, Power Rangers, VR Troopers, Mask Rider, Beetleborgs Metallics, and they would get at least a good season finale or series finale to end that series, at least in Metallics, not including the crossovers that would happen. And then maybe for the time period, and as well, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Next Mutation. So I can imagine before Power Rangers Lost Galaxy premieres on Fox Kids in 1999, and even before Austin St. John, Jason, and Walter Jones, Zach, hosts that Lost episode special. Even before that happens, to conclude most of the Saban stuff, not including Power Rangers itself and X-Men and Marvel, there would be a big ass team up finale. And the perfect time to do this would be Power Rangers in Space, Countdown to Destruction. Let's say the main plot with the Space Rangers holding off Astronomer's forces, and Andros going into the megaship to beat Astronomer and Ecliptor and freeing Zordon still happens. But since things are hectic all over the world or in multiple places, one place could be just as bad as another, to where if let's say astronomer invaded this Earth and everywhere is crappy, whether you're able to defend yourself against, a putty patroller or not doesn't necessarily matter, because I mean, if I were to leave, because I'm in Virginia, if I leave Hampton to go to Newport News to fight some putty patrollers, in this type of scenario, some people are going to get at least hurt, if not die, in this type of scenario. So sometimes you have to settle for the lesser of evils in a way, to where it would be a little better to fight with alongside a few other people. So in this type of scenario in Power Rangers in Space, mostly everything goes as normal, but with the additions of when the rest of the Space Rangers morph during that whole Spartacus moment of Where the Power Rangers, it's not just Andros and them. Andros is in the ship, but it's not just Carlos and them that morph. Jason, Trini, Zach, Kimberly, Billy, and Tommy, with somehow with their powers restored, or maybe not even the Mighty Morphin powers, with the Zeo crystals, because Tommy was still a red Zeo, had access to his red Zeo powers, so maybe he gets the Zeo powers from Adam and them. And the original 5 Rangers, 6 of them together, morph as Jason with an experimental master morpher morphs into the Gold Ranger. So you have the original 6 Rangers morphed as the original 6 Zeo Rangers. So that would be, especially since the Zeo powers supposedly get stronger and have gotten stronger over time, so they would be enough to help the rest of the Space Rangers. So that would be a thing. But at the same time, since the Space Rangers were there and had some experience up to that point, they would go back and grab the Ninja Turtles. And since other Saban heroes kind of sense the central point of where the evil's coming from, the VR troopers with physical suits outside of virtual reality, as well as the Maz Rider who fought alongside the Mighty Morphin Rangers before, will all be there. The Mighty Morphin Rangers as the Zeo Rangers, the Space Rangers, minus Andros, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the Next Mutation, the VR Troopers, and you have the Beetleborgs. That's at least what? That's at least 11 Rangers, 3 VR Troopers at least, 3 Beetleborgs, or 4 if Flabber had restored the white Beetleborg's powers from the big bad Beetleborg days. So 11 Rangers, 4 Beetleborgs, that's 15. 4 Ninja Turtles, or 5 including Splinter, so that's 20 people. And then the Masked Rider. So you have at least a little over a dozen people, at least 20 people fighting against all those monsters and whatnot. And then maybe you will have a Zord battle. You will have the Mega Winger. Flabber from Beetleborgs will be there, so maybe he will restore the Mega Winger and have him fight, and have Zane go back in the Mega Winger and fight different people. And maybe this is all before Andros gets to Astronomer. So Astronomer's watching this and she's like, really? All these little Piranha Patrollers and all this that I got going on, and you got one Mega Winger. And then all of a sudden, since Jason and them are using the Zeo powers, they bring out, or let's say, astronomer, since the rest of the universe is kind of taken over anyway, they kind of venture off of what if Batman wasn't a thing. Astronomer summons the rest of the evil forces, at least the main ones, to Earth, and Lord Zed and Divatox and everybody's kind of putting aside their differences temporarily to be like, y'all Rangers are fucking finished. And for old time's sake, from a narrative standpoint, Godar, Rito Revolto, Godar, Rito Revolto, and let's just throw in some powerful Mighty Morphin monsters, but it will be strengthened in great strength in numbers to fight the Mega Winger. But all of a sudden, the Zeo Rangers would be there. You know, Jason and them as the Zeo powers would summon the set of Zeo Zords, Super Zeo Zords, and all the other side Zords. So that would be a sight to behold. And that would include the Dragon Zord as the Green Dragon Thunder Zord. But nonetheless, this will be done for Power Rangers. You know, Saban being more of a focus, but this will end most of the other Saban properties outside of, other than Power Rangers and X-Men. So that would be a big thing in 1998 for Fox. And then by 1999, since Marvel and Power Rangers is the only thing, and even at this point, Spider-Man the animated series had already ended. You know, Spider-Man finding Mary Jane, and this leading into Avengers United They Stand. But it wouldn't start with Ant-Man being a damn leader. It would start with at least a 2-3-parter. Okay. Power Rangers in Space will be that much bigger, especially with the season finale. 1999 would not only see Spider-Man the animated series end, and X-Men the animated series at least taking a break, if not also ending, but there will be also like a Skrull invasion type of episode that would lead into the formation of the Avengers. And maybe temporarily during the first 3 to 5 episodes, Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America would start the Avengers United They Stand, with Wolverine temporarily being a part of that team to kind of help them get situated as a team. Kind of like in Teen Titans, how Cyborg was temporarily with Titans East, at least long enough to get them established before going back to the regular Titans. Wolverine or somebody else, or maybe a couple of X-Men, at least would do the same thing here. So that would be a big thing in 1999. But not just with Marvel doing this, and then Power Rangers continuing their success into the year 2000 as the anime invasion starts. But also in 1999, Star Trek was still a big thing. Star Trek was still a big franchise. So to kind of help fill in this void at least a little while longer, until the anime invasion comes, in others invasion. But until that comes, there will be a Star Trek, hear me out, a Star Trek and Power Rangers crossover. This would be in an alternate universe, or else it would screw up the whole canon of what ultimately did happen for this version of Power Rangers and Star Trek.